Today's special Oscars episode of the BS Podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek, the presenting sponsor of the BS Podcast and Channel 33, as well as our favorite app for buying and selling tickets for sports and music. Go to SeatGeek.com/BS to start using SeatGeek, especially if you're a Patriots fan in the Colorado area. Then definitely use SeatGeek for this Sunday's game. Don't forget to download the free SeatGeek app. Enter promo code BS. SeatGeek will send you $20 once you've made your first purchase. Get to it, Patriots fans. Today's podcast is also brought to you by Simply Safe. Here's a little tip that will save you a huge headache later. Any home security company that says it's free probably has a huge contract attached. 3 years, thousands of dollars, you're locked in. Well, there's a better way to protect your home. Simply Safe Home Security. No long-term contracts, period. You get the best 24/7 protection for just $14.99 a month. The only security I trust. Visit simplysafebill.com to get my 10% off discount. And we're off.
Yeah. Clearing up for you.
It's been a couple months since he was here.
This wasn't here last time.
Yeah, we didn't have this on the last time.
Me and Tupac.
I hadn't cleared it yet.
Rolling.
You guys are back together.
It does create this energy. At least at first, anyway. I have a new energy.
It does. I feel like he'd be happy about it. For a
Maybe.
lot of different reasons.
For any number of reasons.
Yeah, I think we
Tupac,
would've
like
liked
having
each
this be
other.
the theme song for your show, of course he would be.
He would have enjoyed the symbolism behind it.
Yes.
So that's Wesley Morris, now of the New York Times, formerly of Grantland. And you have not been on. I think you were like the third, fourth, fifth, sixth pod, whatever,
Something
somewhere
like
in the
that.
early stages of the
early.
BS pod.
We were sitting in different spots, is how
We were.
things are all changed up.
This is now my spot.
I got a
Last
good
year
view
at
of
this
tape,
time,
though. I like that.
yeah, last year at this time we were taping like a 3-hour recording session for our Oscars TV special.
Yeah.
We had all these fun categories. It was a more fun Oscars.
Oh, yeah. Last year was way more fun than these.
This year's less fun, but we're taping this on a Monday.
Yeah.
The only reason we're taping this early is because you're just passing through town. You're leaving tomorrow, so we had to grab you while
It's
you're
an
here.
in and out.
Yeah. So right before we were taping this, noticed online there's going to be a little boycott. It looks
This
like for the
just
Oscars.
in.
Spike Lee, Jada Pinkett, no longer going.
So far. I mean,
That feels like a snowball rolling down the hill.
director and star of Bamboozled, out.
Right. Well, wife of Will Smith,
And wife of non-nominated Will Smith.
who probably thought he was going to be nominated.
And, you know, frankly, if we're being totally honest on this,
Yeah.
she should have been among the nominated. She should have been part of that nominee conversation. Magic Mike.
Jada
She's
Pink-
so good.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Move back like 6 inches so you don't blow out.
right.
Yeah, that's better. Our microphones are very sensitive.
Oh, okay.
So I noticed this when it came out.
Yeah.
All white people nominated. Really,
Everybody
all
noticed
white
it.
people. It was hard not to
You live in
notice
Los
it.
Angeles. You had the 25 mugshots, like totaling one
Yeah, I didn't
giant
see that till
mugshot.
next day.
It was amazing.
I'm naive with race for the most part because I've always grown up like, you know, I've liked everything. Like
Yeah.
my favorite basketball players are black. Most of my favorite shows are black people. So it's rare for me to see something that jumps out that blatantly and where I'm like, wait, this is weird. Like, where's Michael B. Jordan?
Right.
Where's Idris Elba? Where's everybody?
I mean, look, okay, so we have to back up for 1 second because
Yes, please do.
I mean, we have to tell the story about what is actually going on here. So 2015 was, by many accounts, a really good year for movies up to a certain point.
Right.
And among what was really good about 2015 were things like Straight Outta Compton. According to some people, I'm not crazy about that movie, but we're setting that aside.
It's memorable. It's 25 minutes too
It
long,
made
but
a
it's
lot of
memorable.
money.
Yeah.
It turned a lot, and its success turned a lot of heads. You had the sort of ongoing, unkillable career of Kevin Hart. You had Creed, which came at the end of the year, a sort of rejuvenation of the Rocky franchise, and told
And the
from
first good director since Rocky 1 for a Rocky movie. That also
Yes,
really helped.
yes.
It's not
I
a
mean-
coincidence Sly Stallone got nominated.
I would also say that Ryan Coogler at this point is a better director than John G. Avildsen or whatever.
I would agree.
Just throwing that out there.
Some great Karate Kid scenes, though, by Avildsen. You got to hand it to him.
So you have what I would say is a fairly, in the summer you had a movie called Dope that made a pretty good amount of money. You didn't have quite the range of, I think the thing that was sort of disappointing to me was you didn't have a range of black people in movies. Like it was limited to a specific region, a specific kind of movie, mostly black men. And black women serving a purpose in black movies that they served in like 1991 or 92.
No Denzel movie this year, right? Did he have one?
No, there was no
and
Denzel
we had the Will
Washington
Smith movie with the bad accent.
You had a very bad Will Smith movie.
I do not understand your concussions. he sounded a little bit like Daniel Day-Lewis.
He wasn't from India or like Gaza or wherever this accent's coming from.
I was going for Ireland-Zimbabwe combo. Like if somebody from Zimbabwe and Ireland had a kid.
I don't even know who that person is.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Like Zimbabwe and Ireland.
I am more worried about the concussions than you. You're right. It doesn't sound like Will Smith. I'm sorry. I can't do accents.
Neither can he.
Neither can he.
But he is really good in the movie nonetheless. The movie is just unspeakably bad. I think this is the thing that you run up against with 2015. The reason this is so bad for Hollywood first and the Academy second, but most immediately, obviously, the Academy is, while you did have Straight Outta Compton and you did have Dope and you did have Concussion and you did have Creed, none of those movies is immediately, according to at least the studios that released them, Oscar movies. So despite the fact that Straight Outta Compton came out at the height of summer, I think the beginning of August or the end of July, made a lot of money, it seemed like Universal was kind of caught off guard about whether to put this movie in front of Oscar voters for consideration. Now, unfortunately, that's how this process works. You can't organically become part of the Oscar conversation in most cases. You have to have a studio sort of push you in front of Oscar voters.
I see what you're doing here. You're flipping this around. People blame the Academy. You're saying the whole studio system is the reason this happened.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, you can't. The number of movies they had to choose from was pretty small in terms of people of color. And if you really are looking at this honestly, what really are the odds for Straight Outta Compton as a Best Picture nominee? According to the way the math works on Best Picture, it's hilariously almost impossible for that movie to be part of that conversation.
Creed is
a much better, had a much more legitimate conventional shot. But I don't think the studio knew what they had in Creed until the reviews came in. And the way that the Oscar campaigning process works now, if you think about it... Wait
a second, though. They knew what they had. I don't think they knew that it was going to be as critically acclaimed as it was. I think they knew it was going to be a big movie.
They knew they had a movie that would make back the $35 million it cost to get it made.
Yes.
I think they knew they had a probable hit on their hands.
Right.
But I don't think that this for me is where the racism starts to come in. I mean, I think there's racism in the Academy to some extent, but I think there's a kind of institutional racism when it comes to what people in this town think a quote Oscar movie unquote is.
It's Brooklyn. But they just think like,
oh, Brooklyn the movie.
Yeah.
They think, oh, sure, like the story
that makes sense,
right? Also, the people who made Brooklyn understood they understood that that's a movie that would appeal to Academy voters, which as of right now is still largely male, like predominantly male, predominantly white, and predominantly older. So I think the average age, and I'm probably going to be wrong about this, but I want to say it's like late 50s, early 60s.
I screwed up with my example. It's actually Bridge of Spies is the perfect kind of movie that the Academy is like, oh, Spielberg.
Yes.
And Hanks.
Yes.
The
unfortunate part of your very apt example, because I agree with you in terms of that being a class of movie, is that Bridge of Spies is actually really good.
Well, so is Creed.
Yes, but the thing about Creed is the studio didn't think of it as a quote Oscar movie.
But whereas Bridge of Spies
is a no-brainer.
2 years ago, they thought it was an Oscar movie.
The way the institution works is, think about this. They don't have to position Bridge of Spies as an Academy movie because it's got Academy pedigree in it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a Steven Spielberg movie set in the past, specifically during World War II, with Tom Hanks. You don't really have to mount an an unusual campaign or go out of your way to make a movie like that appealing to Oscar voters.
Well, but so how does Cranston get nominated? I mean, even Cranston, we talked about it, but not for our podcast.
I would say,
how does Cranston get? Even Cranston shocked he got nominated.
I would say that Cranston is somebody that people in this. I mean, Breaking Bad, he is good for life.
So you think the Academy is like, oh, I love Breaking Bad. Check.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to be that cynical about it. I'm willing to be cynical about pretty much every other aspect of this process. I think Cranston just has a lot of goodwill toward him. And I don't think that's going to go anywhere anytime soon. I think Trumbo is an utterly disposable movie and a complete missed opportunity to tell the Dalton Trumbo story, especially in that Hollywood context.
Right.
And he's fine in the movie.
He's fine.
I mean, I could think of 5 other people who I would filling out my ballot, I would have put
Tom Hardy played twins. They were totally different.
He's not nominated
Tom Hardy
in everybody's defense, because that movie is also not very good. But
he's twins.
I was surprised that he actually. Oh wait, so because I want to talk about Tom Hardy for a second. But let's just like get this race thing on the table all the way. So Bridge of Spies is just a much more obvious Oscar candidate, right? So you don't have to, I mean, psychologically or psychically, I think people just assume that they should be thinking about Bridge of Spies at the end of the year when it comes time to, because I mean, if the movie works, right? And the movie in this case, I would say it works. I think other people agree that it works. I also think that one of the things that hurts Creed is just like, the Academy is used to thinking about black people a certain way. And I think Hollywood is used to thinking about black people a certain way.
Okay.
If Creed were about like a runaway slave who gets the box, do you know what I mean?
That was the original script. It was Creed's grandfather.
I mean, let's think about this. If Creed were like a butler son who gets the box. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like
in the 1900s.
If there was just no real conventional way for the way
the Academy thinks. But wait a second, go back to your butler's son. I like that. So it's like 1890. Oprah's there as the older maid. Who's the really mean patriarch?
Well, if we're going all the way back there, this now becomes loaded, because what would they have been doing? They would have been Mandingo fighters. Like they wouldn't have been. They wouldn't have been in a boxing ring. They would have been within the. I mean, there's probably a version of this boxing story you can tell, and the boxing historian can probably put this in proper historical perspective. But in terms of the way black men and violence in public space worked, I mean, they'd kind of be Mandingo fighters.
I have good news. The Academy just nominated this fake movie for an Oscar. It got added to the category.
Jada and Spike, you can come to the show now.
They've heard all they've needed to hear.
Stop.
Will Smith's in it. He doesn't even know yet. He's been cast.
We're great. I mean, what is he doing?
No, you're right, though. But here's what I don't get. This was kind of the year, like Empire starts this whole thing, and Shonda Rhimes, all these shows, and everybody kind of belatedly realizes, oh, wow, the black audiences are totally underserved, and we can make a lot of money with this, and this is great, and there are all these great actors, and let's do this, everybody. And then Oscar shut out 9 months later. Bizarre.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just don't think that between the priorities of the movie industry, and if there's another thing that, and we've talked about this before, but the global audience is something that's really on the minds of a lot of studios. And now it's entirely possible for them to clear, I mean, whatever their bottom line is in terms of global audience and global reach, it's possible for them to meet those and still make a Creed, right? Like, It's not as though you have to completely underserve the black audience or like any audiences of color, or women for that matter, by making movies, these sort of gargantuan entertainments that happen to feature a bunch of white people, because the assumption is that Chinese people only want to watch Chris Pratt. I don't believe that, and I don't think that that sort of catering necessarily needs to happen.
Chinese people love Kobe more than any Chinese person, right, other than maybe Yi Jinlan.
I would say that the same is probably true for Will Smith.
Yeah.
And I think the more famous Kevin Hart gets, and the dumber some of his movies are sort of willing to be, I think his physical comedy plays well anywhere. I don't think that. I think that's an excuse to not diversify the movies. I don't think that that's a legitimate argument.
Did Spike Lee let us down by not making a better movie, or did you like that movie?
I think Chi-Raq is almost good. I think the thing for
Almost
me,
good.
well,
The Spike Lee story.
no. I mean, yes, that is a sort of public
The
story
last
about
15,
Spike Lee. Yes.
last 15 years.
But I think there's some really good filmmaking in this film. My problem with it is that it misdiagnoses a problem and then proceeds to use that misdiagnosis to treat it. So the movie sort of assumes, it uses this sort of classical Greek story, Aristophanes, Lysistrata, and uses it to try to get at some sort of to allegorize Chicago's gun violence situation.
Yep.
The problem with it for me is that I don't think the solution to this problem is like locking up all of the vaginas in Chicago. I don't really think that is quite. I mean, even as an allegory, that doesn't work for me. I think that there are any number of ways he could have gone about doing this. I do really like the imagination and the sort of vision behind approaching this problem at all. But the problem, the additional problem for me is, even in attempting to do that, I don't think the movie itself is that interesting. This guy needs to make a full-on musical at this point. He has flirted with it so many times. He's had so many musical moments in movies, in School Days and Malcolm X, and there is a kind of music in Son of Sam, Summer of Sam. There's so many musical moments in his movies, and he's made a lot of music videos. I just feel like he should just make a musical. I also think that one of the problems with Chi-Raq is it was a hard sell for audiences just because a lot of it is in verse, and it moves in and out of the decision to remain in verse. But I think that the performances are some of the performances are really good.
Well, wait a second though. With Spike,
yeah.
The movie sounded promising. Ultimately, I couldn't get fired up to watch it because I've just been let down too many times by a Spike Lee movie.
That's
over the
fair.
last 15 years. They're just
That's
like,
fair.
you know what? I don't want to spend the 2 hours. I'd rather watch some of these other ones.
I will say he remains utterly uncompromised in terms of what he wants to do as a filmmaker. I mean, he might beg to differ with this. I think if he wanted to, I don't know what the studios think of him at this point. I think that they probably think he's a loose cannon and are nervous to spend a great deal amount of time with him. Yeah. Because he is so independent minded and his bullshit detector is so strong, and he's outspoken, and he's got a weird artistic view of any sort of conventional situation, right? He's not going to see the world the way you see it.
I get it.
And I think the presentation of that sort of sidelong view, if you're a studio executive, it's sidelong, I'm saying, it's just going to sort of cause you some problems. I think that he's made some mistakes recently. I think that remaking Old Boy was just not something he needed to do, and especially the remake that he gave us. Did you see that, by the way?
No.
There's a really good there are a couple really good physical sequences, but to watch the movie is to just see this misshapen movie that it seems like was taken away from him and then re-edited to seem commercial.
I'm done with we need, first of all, I always say we need a sports czar. We need a Hollywood czar.
To do what? I don't disagree with you.
First of all, the Hollywood czar would tell Spike, "Hey Spike, just you do what you want to do, but every 6 years, just make an entertaining movie. Just do The Equalizer with Denzel. Just do it for 4 months, bang it out,
right?
Put some Spike Lee things in it, and get out, and then go do a couple years. You're a good filmmaker. Just do a couple that are just your only goal is just to be entertaining."
I think I fully support that. I think it's hard for me to sort of say, Spike, this is what you should do. I feel like one of the things that I think is really interesting is Inside Man, which I think the universe agrees is a really good movie.
25th Hour, I love that.
25th. Well,
that's my favorite Spike movie. 25th
Hour. I mean, that sort of goes in the class of movie I'm going to present, the class of Spike Lee movie I'm going to present, which is a movie that he didn't write,
Right.
that he could sort of push up against in terms of whether or not he agreed with the entire script that he's working with.
Yeah.
There's some tension between him and the material, and then by extension, the actors. And he has a clear vision for what he wants to say. I also think that the thing about Chi-Raq that was curious to me is, I don't think that if some other director had gone to Brooklyn and made a similar movie about police brutality, I don't think he would have stood for it.
Right.
I think he was in Chicago. I think he was out of his element. I don't think he knows that city the way he obviously doesn't know that city the way he knows Brooklyn. I think there was a real sort of class disconnect between himself and the South Side of Chicago. I think that it was a very sort of privileged view of that problem. And I don't use that word loosely or lightly. I mean, I think that this is a rich, middle-aged man who has a particular artistic point of view that does not entirely fit with the problem he's trying to address.
So the movie I would love to see him make is the What the Hell is Happening in Brooklyn, this place that I loved movie.
Yes.
All these hipsters have come in and ruined my city.
You saw Jimmy's.
He's dying to make that movie. He just won't.
You saw Jimmy's Do the White Thing.
Yeah.
Sketch, right? I mean, I felt like, he is so outspoken about what's happened in Brooklyn that I would love to see that.
Put it in a script, Spike.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that he is working on. I mean, he might be working on something. I'm not sure about anything with him, but it was great to see him get that honorary Oscar. It was great to hear him give that speech and to sort of like lay out this exact problem that we're trying to talk about now, with Hollywood and non-white people and women and people and non-straight people.
Wait, so Michael B. Jordan said on my podcast, because we talked about the roles for actors, and I was like, who's on your corner?
Second time he came back?
Yeah, that when he came on
on this show.
Yeah, it's like, so like, who's on your corner? You know, like the way Hollywood works now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if it's a black actor part, and he was saying like, it could be everyone from age 20 to age 55.
Right.
And he was saying how the thing that bothers him, one, they're not writing enough good parts for black actors and actresses. And then two, that he's not considered for some parts where they just go, oh yeah, that should be a white person. Where it's like, well, why? There's a lot of movies that it doesn't really matter what the color of the person is. And that seemed like that bothered him more than anything. That he just felt like certain roles he didn't even have a chance, and he wasn't positive why.
Well, I mean, the answer is, we know the answer. The answer is obvious.
The answer is obvious.
But I think you're bringing up TV is really important. I think that the change in television in 3 years. Think about how we could never have had the, oh my God, TV looks like more like the world now than it did 2 years ago.
Right.
There's so much stuff happening on TV. There are so many different people on TV right now. It is so exciting. And a lot of these shows are, if they're not great, they're really entertaining.
Yeah.
And there are black women running these shows. There are gay people running these shows. There are the Jill Soloway universe running Transparent, which is like, the Transparent is just an artistic miracle. I've never seen anything like this show before in my life. I thought that I hadn't seen anything like this with Orange is the New Black, but Transparent is a different thing. It's a familiar energy. It's a similar energy, but as an achievement, this is like, I've never seen anything. I mean, outside of maybe European filmmaking, like that goes on for a long time, this is a completely different thing for American televised entertainment. Nothing close to this.
Well, maybe that's where we're going.
Maybe, but I think that by comparison, I think this, like the Michael B. Jordan's problem is that he's probably going to audition for things not written by a black person, not produced by a black person, and not directed by a black person. And in the scheme of things, that shouldn't matter, but ultimately it kind of does. You are having one set of experiences limit or dictate the purview and range of a whole other set of experiences. Once you get more people like more producers of color, more women making movies. I mean, the statistics sort of bear out what happens when, like, for instance, a woman gets a job directing a show. Most of the cast and crew wind up, or more of the cast and crew wind up being women, for instance, if a woman is directing it. I mean,
now you're in Project Greenlight Effie conversation territory.
Well, but it's true. I don't want to do this. I can't do it again. Like, I mean, I love him so much, and I'm tired of talking about this, and I feel bad and everything else. But it's all true. And I think that the thing about TV is you just have more different people doing more different things. And I also think that TV, the level of risk is the barrier to failure by applying risk or taking a risk. It's just lower.
Well, there's two things going on. There's so many shows now that you can write your show for a specific niche.
Right.
And know that it's not going to blow up.
You've got a seemingly infinite amount of space.
You also have people now that are just like, here's money. Do whatever you want. We'll stay out of the way.
Yeah.
Which is rare.
I mean, yes.
I don't know how long that's going to last, but right now that's what Netflix is doing right now.
Right.
They just give people money. Do your thing. Amazon, same thing. Here's money.
Yeah, in Hollywood, the movies anyway are constricting.
Yes.
And so they're making fewer movies. But you've got a guy like Will Packer, for instance, who has produced a lot of the Kevin Hart movies, a bunch of other sort of black cast and mostly black directed films that have done pretty well at the box office. I think this guy, if he wanted to, could, because what we're missing, the reason we're in this position is not just there's a lack of, just to stick with black people and black entertainment, but I mean, this is applicable to all the races. It's not just that there is a lack of black movies eligible for Oscars. It's that when you can get a black movie made, it's sort of limited to a particular type of film. And the miracle with Straight Outta Compton and the miracle of Creed is that both movies, in the eyes of some people, I mean, I think Creed is a really, really good movie. I think Straight Outta Compton is fine. But the people who love Straight Outta Compton love it. Whatever.
Well, part of the art of Straight Outta Compton was it should have been a disaster and was somehow good and relied so much on they had to cast those three guys correctly, which they did.
The casting, I mean,
could have just gone
the casting
horribly.
of that movie alone gets an Oscar. But it's funny because the four screenwriters, the four white Dre and Cube approved screenwriters are Oscar nominees.
Yeah.
And I do think that the strong point of that movie weirdly is its script. And aside from the
Definitely
actors
the structure
who play Ice Cube and Eazy-E, those guys are incredible. And Paul Giamatti is really good in that movie.
It's really good. The structure's great. It's like these guys, the police pushed these guys over the limit and it made their careers. And here we go. And it gets you by the 45-minute mark. You're like, yeah, fuck the police. Fuck those guys. Just gets you totally into it.
By the 45-minute mark, that was when I'm out. Like, it starts to become really conventional.
Yeah.
Probably at around the time Ice Cube leaves.
The Detroit scene is great.
Right. And that's
I thought that's the peak of that movie.
That's the peak of that movie.
That's actually one of my favorite scenes of the whole year. Really, I was ready for it. I knew it was coming, and then it was great. It was
and they
really
understand what's going on in that scene. There's a real, and I feel like they just drop the ball is probably not the right word. I mean, the movie wound up going in a different, more conventional direction after that.
Really good first 40 minutes or so.
It could have been great. I think that for 45 minutes is very, very good. And then it's just perfectly mediocre after that. But so are you sufficiently satisfied with my laying out of what is actually going on?
We
here?
have everything except for one thing.
Yeah.
Does a boycott change anything? Let's say 25 of the biggest African American, black, biracial, everybody, they just sit out. They're just out.
You threw in biracial.
I was just throwing at everybody.
Dwayne Johnson, you're staying home. You hear that?
Dwayne Johnson home.
Yeah. Vin Diesel wouldn't go anyway. But I mean, I'm sure that
Vin Diesel biracial?
Come on. Are we going to have this conversation?
I don't know.
He probably doesn't want us to have this conversation.
Okay. He
is one race. He is human.
That's what I figured.
Exactly.
I thought he might be an alien.
I also want to just finish my point about Will Packer. Will Packer now has all this clout. He can, or I don't know what Will Packer would say his clout is. I think he's got clout. I think Will Packer could get made some movie that some August Wilson play, some Lynn Notage play, some original screenplay, something that would speak to Academy voters in a way that doesn't feel compromised by letting white people sort of free black people or help black people read, like any of the sort of conventional things that happen in these movies that wind up nominated for Oscars. I think Will Packer is one of the producers who has the clout to do that. Ava DuVernay obviously is, I think what happened last year with Selma sort of gave her her purpose. It renewed her purpose, her political purpose. I mean, I think her artistic purpose would never change, but I do think that kind of awakened something in her. I don't think she was complacent about that movie's prospects with the Academy, but I think the way that whole thing shook out, because I also think that film was hurt by the sort of racism of promotion rather than necessarily Academy racism. But I think that there are more people in a position to do good things in movies. And look, in 10 years, I think we'll be talking about how in 2015, there was that time that there were no black acting nominees, and
you didn't tell me whether the boycott is going to help or not.
Oh, right. Okay. So I think the boycott will definitely be embarrassing for the Academy.
And if Chris Rock's monologue.
And if Chris Rock's the only black person in the room, do you know what I mean? Like he won't be the only black person involved because Reginald Hudlin is still producing and Chris Rock is still the host.
I have two key points for you.
Yes.
What if Chris Rock bows out right now? Great career move.
Well, look,
career move.
Anything can happen at this point, right? I mean, it's not as though Spike Lee and Jada Pinkett Smith, both of whom I adore and respect very much, it's not that big a deal that they're not going, since Spike Lee would have, I think, just have stood up and said, "Hey, everybody, I got this. I already got this honorary Oscar." He'd be going as somebody who had already received his prize. And Jada Pinkett Smith would probably have been going as a presenter. Unclear. But, Reginald Hudlin is in a bit of a bind, because I think one of the things, if the boycotts continue, I think he's in a bind, because he is a producer of this show, has he knows he can call everybody up and just be like, "Hey, will you come present?" But if there's going to be this interesting tension now.
What if every presenter was black?
I mean, last year
That would be a pretty good counter response to this.
I mean, but
and then like after like the 15th category, it's like, here they are, Alfonso Ribeiro.
Okay, you don't have to. How do I put this? You wouldn't even have to get to Alfonso is the way how good things are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's
right.
The thing. You watch the Emmys.
No, it's like,
and you see the great thing about the Emmys last year was the moment Regina King won for.
You love Regina King.
I love Regina King.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Regina King.
Me too.
There was that great moment where she won the supporting actress Emmy for limited series, miniseries, that sort of thing. And she was up against Angela Bassett, Kathy Bates, Monique, and Sarah Paulson, I think, were the 5 nominees. There might be somebody. There might have been 6. I don't remember who the 6th person was. But anyway, she wins the Emmy. She beats Angela Bassett and Monique for an Emmy. Accepts the award from Terrence Howard and Taraji P. Henson.
Yeah.
There was no. And think about this. 5 years before that, Regina King had written a note on the Huffington Post saying, the Emmys are so white. Yeah. Like, what's up with the Emmys? Like, why aren't there any black nominees? And why are there frequently no black nominees? And I think that what's happened in TV is not this sort of direct, like, PR push. There's been a real infrastructural opening up of opportunities for all kinds of people. And the thing about the Academy Awards is you can make all the presenters black, but then in 2016... or this year in 2017 for the movie release year of 2016, what do you have? Like, I mean, what is coming out in 2016 that can be nominated for Oscars in 2017?
Here's what's going to solve the problem: Hamilton the musical as a movie. when it wins like 17 Oscars.
Yeah, but I mean,
That'll be when it lays the.
That's like
problem
2019.
solved.
2019.
When did they really have to wait 4 years for a Hamilton movie?
I mean, you need to talk to Lin-Manuel. By the way, you should have Lin-Manuel Miranda on your show. He should just
still haven't seen it. I sent my wife and my daughter, and it was like the greatest night of their life.
I think
everyone who goes,
I think
it's the greatest night of their life.
To you. It's a pretty great night at the theater, I got to say. And I mean, I can't imagine what the energy's like in the theater now. I saw it almost 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what the energy's like in that theater now.
No signs of abating.
It's really good.
One movie that didn't get nominated, I was surprised by was Jobs, because Jobs fits that. I didn't really like Jobs. Jobs fits that whole Oscar stereotype for what gets nominated. Like if Bridge of Spies is a better movie, but if that's going to make it, I thought Jobs, just on pedigree and Fassbender and,
Well, Fassbender's a nominee. Kate Winslet is a nominee.
Right.
So
how is
Sorkin,
Jobs not a
I don't
nominee?
remember now. Was Sorkin one of the... Did the screenplay get nominated?
I think it did.
I just don't think it's a particularly remarkable movie. I mean, it's utterly conventional, I think. And I have...
Did you think Bridge of Spies was a remarkable movie?
I thought it was a remarkable entertainment. Look, Steven Spielberg, even when he's this isn't even a phoned in. I think the thing about Spielberg is you expect him to phone it in, and he's not. Like, there are some great shots in Bridge of Spies. I think it really hangs together. It's fun. In as much as something like that can be fun. And, Tom Hanks, I think we take for granted now. I think he could never be nominated again. I mean, like, I just think that he is like oxygen or something. He's the opposite of Meryl Streep, where when Meryl Streep farts, she gets nominated, although she didn't this year.
Hanks is like, she did fart, though.
She actually, she didn't get nominated
Hanks
for farting.
Hanks is like Tom Brady. He's just, he's going to throw for 4,000 yards, have his 30 TDs.
Right,
picks.
but he'll get a
is.
Super Bowl to play in, or at least an AFC Championship game to play in almost every year. Hanks is kind of like beholden to the memory of his peers, and I think that everybody sort of takes his excellence for granted. I mean, Mark Rylance is the guy, not unjustifiably getting all of the attention in the acting department for that movie.
Right.
Mark Rylance will probably win the Oscar too, I think, for that movie.
Well, before we keep going, shout out to our friends at Simply Safe. I have a little tip that will save you a huge headache later. Do you want to hear it?
By all means, lay it on me.
Any home security that says it's free usually means it has a contract attached to it.
Yeah, okay.
It's a little smoke and mirrors.
Wonder if my sister knows that. She's got a big house.
Yeah, it'll be like, hey, 3 years, all of a sudden thousands of dollars, and you can't get out of it. You're locked in. Which is why there's a better way to protect your home. I wanted to tell you about it. Simply Safe Home Security, a longtime sponsor of this podcast. So easy. No long-term contracts. $14.99 a month. 24/7 protection. Easy to set up. Everything you'd ever want. Fantastic. It's the only security I trust. And if you visit simplysafebill.com, you get 10% off. simplysafebill.com. Jodie Foster, remember Panic Room?
Oh yeah, she had
all that.
Safe.
She had cameras.
Yeah,
she had the thing. People still got in. If she had Simply Safe,
Forrest Whitaker would have never gotten in there. Nope.
I kind of like that movie now.
Now
it's like a rewatchable cable movie that I never expected would be rewatchable, but I do like when people are trapped in a place and people are trying to get in, and it's got some elements I like, and Jodie's good in it.
They're both. Kristen Stewart is good.
Kristen Stewart, I feel like they're related.
Yes.
It's one of those. Like I could totally see them being the mom-daughter.
There was a moment where Kristen Stewart and Jodie Foster were basically the same person.
They might be. She might have cloned herself.
Not anymore, though. There's no demonstrable way you.
There was also a really good era from like 97 to 2002 when women that attractive actresses, but maybe weren't as quote unquote sexy as like say Jolie in her peak. And the solution was just to put them in t-shirts with very flimsy
tank
bra.
tops.
The Helen Hunt, Jodie Foster, like it was just less clothes. Maybe that'll do it. And it was actually led to like, Jodie Foster's cute in that movie.
I think that Linda Hamilton
Linda Hamilton started. You're right.
I think Demi Moore and Linda Hamilton. I think G.I. Jane was. I'm gonna get the date wrong for G.I. Jane. I think it's 96 or 97.
Lori Petty.
Lori Petty. I mean,
Terminator 2 started it. They're like, look at her biceps. Look
although
at her
Julia
triceps.
Roberts in Pretty Woman also walked around in a tank top. Like, I mean, I think she walked the streets of Los Angeles in a tank top.
Let's talk about Oscars.
Yes, please.
So we have 8 films, and it's a weird year, which has happened before, where I'm not positive there's a standout yet, but the advertising and all the PR stuff hasn't really started yet. At gunpoint, if I had to pick one right now, even though plus 1,500, I think, are the odds, I think I would pick The Martian.
To win?
Yeah, I think it's like the safest pick. I know. Is that crazy?
I mean, I guess the
Ridley
math
Scott
would work
got snubbed. Matt Damon. Everybody liked it.
Oh,
I
are
think
you
these other
smelling
ones
an
are
Argo situation?
Yeah. I think all
like
these other
that.
ones are going to carve out their little niche things. And I think most people are just going to look at it and go, I really like The Martian, and just check it.
Wow.
I think it's a good sleeper. I don't know if it'll win, but I think it's a good sleeper
That's
pick.
a good story that you're telling, though, about the sort of the rallying behind and
Ridley
around.
Scott, I feel bad he wasn't nominated. Revenant will get picked apart. That's not going to win. Big Short will get picked apart. That's not going to win. Spotlight. I think the nitpick on that one will be like...
It's been thoroughly vetted, though, at this point. I mean, I feel like...
But was it special? Is it a special movie?
Yeah, I think its specificity kind of works against it in some ways. I think it's localness, basically. It's narrative localness. Obviously, that story is an international story.
Wouldn't you say that the best parallel for Spotlight would be Argo, an ensemble movie, well done, not 100% special, really well done, and yet now it has the Oscar, and when it's on cable, and it's very well done. I like it. It's good. When I see it on cable, I'm always a little half surprised that it actually won the Oscar.
But you know what's funny about Argo? And this won't happen with Spotlight because it just wasn't a hit the way Argo was a hit.
Yeah.
And probably at this point won't be. Argo comes up a lot as a pop culture reference still. Like, they cut that, that Iranian deal went through the other day, and they released those prisoners, and there was a big story in the papers about how there was some last minute drama on the tarmac about whether Jason Rezaian was going to get on the plane with his wife and his mother, whether the Iranians were going to let him go. And apparently John Kerry had to make a phone call to sort of say, look, you guys, you promised that Jason can get on the plane. You got to let him on the plane now. The State Department person who was aware of whatever was going on with this was like, it's kind of like out of Argo.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Argo,
that's not the go-to.
Argo just comes up a lot in a lot of different ways too. As a easy pop culture reference point for not just things that happen in Iran, but for other stuff too. Spotlight that's never going to happen with Spotlight. To its credit,
so are you in the camp of, no, actually, I liked how understated the direction was, and he kept it simple, and he didn't try to go over the top with anything? Or are you like me, where you're like, I really liked that movie. It was excellent. It's the best TV movie I've ever seen. It easily could have run on HBO, and I wouldn't have felt like, wow, this movie's too fancy for HBO. This is too of an amazing movie. It's too well done for HBO. It would have been like, yeah, this is a really great HBO movie. Okay,
I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Was it a giant cinema movie, or was it a movie that just could have premiered at Saturday 8 p.m. on HBO?
I think that argument should be aimed at 2 other Best Picture nominees. Room and Brooklyn.
Room's another one. Room's the best Lifetime movie ever made.
Room and Brooklyn are 2 movies that...
Coming up on the Lifetime channel, she's been in the same room for 7 years with her captor.
But no, that's not even the movie, actually.
No, that's not even a movie.
That actually is a better movie. That actually is a movie that does not insult my intelligence as a human being with feelings.
I just like Brie Larson. I'm in on Brie Larson. She's great in it.
Be in on Brie Larson.
Awesome in it.
She's going to win Best Actress. Be all
great
in
performance.
On her. But think about how much. I mean, I want to sort of lay on the table for one second that I think the problem with this movie is that it is sexual torture and capture for dummies. I think that
I'm a dummy, so that worked for me.
No shots to you, but I do think that it takes the safest possible way
is true
to tell this story from
it's
the point
from the
of view.
kid's perspective, though.
I just that just is nauseating to me. I don't know why it bothers me so much, but I think it's the cheapest possible ploy in telling this story.
So Brie Larson, if you saw 90 seconds of the captor just having his way with Brie Larson and she's crying, then you're okay?
You're trying to trap me.
I'm not trapping you.
I'm not going in
I'm
that
not trying
room.
to trap you.
I will just say that
Is that what you needed?
If you're going to make a movie about a woman basically capped as as in sexual slavery for 7 years.
Yes.
Don't tell it from the point of view of her rapist child.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
It just-
if you tell it from any other point of view, that's one of the most grisly movies I'm ever going to see in my life.
So basically this reminds me of my problem with the 127 hours. I feel like
I also had problems with 127
the honest version of that movie doesn't have any of the gravy and whipped cream and cherries and jimmies and sprinkles that Danny Boyle's excellent filmmaking gives you, right?
Yeah.
I didn't mind watching that movie, and I should have. I should have hated every second of that movie. It's a guy trapped in a crevice with his hand caught between a boulder and the wall
Yeah.
for 127 hours.
Yeah. It was disarming. So your favorite movie was?
Of those 8 movies? Wait, we didn't unpack The Revenant yet, though. What's the argument against The Revenant?
I think people... It's a little like the New England Patriots for me.
Mm-hmm. This is good. I like where this is going.
You like where this is going.
I like where this is going.
The expectations are so high that if it doesn't get there,
you're talking just purely in terms of the Oscars or the quality of the movie.
Inarritu, Leo,
right.
Outdoors took a ton to film. Tom Hardy, got all these people. This should be the bet, and it's basically Jeremiah Johnson 40 years later. And he threw in a couple scenes where there's crows and Indians and all the stereotypical shit you should do when you're making a movie. He did it anyway. People are disappointed in it. They feel like it's cliched. Why does he have to climb in the horse? All this stuff. And the reality is, I saw it in the theater. I concentrated and was affected the whole time. It had some really memorable moments and scenes.
Yes.
All the actors were excellent. It's really well filmed. The lighting was unlike anything I've ever seen. And I liked it. I'm not going to apologize.
I thought
it was cool. I thought it was a memorable movie.
I don't think there's anything to apologize for. I think that I love the Patriots analogy because it also brings that also is at this point incorporating Iñárritu, who is Belichick.
I hate how you can pronounce it so much better than I can.
Sorry. I've been stuck with this guy for longer than Birdman and The Revenant is the problem.
Yeah.
And so really is the Academy, though, right? I mean, this is his 3rd Best Director nomination. I feel like directors think this guy is just amazing.
That's the thing. That has to count, though, is that the other directors are like, wow, I'm jealous of that scene. That's amazing.
Okay, so let me ask you some questions about Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
So Bill Belichick is...
No other coaches like him.
No other coaches like him. No other coaches like him. No other coaches like... You're not saying there's nobody who compares to him. You're saying people don't like this man.
Yeah, he treats everybody, he has no time for anybody.
So I think that there is a Brady Belichick analogy between DiCaprio
I like it.
and Iñárritu. Like, I think that...
And Inarritu.
Inarritu is the guy who makes the movies that somebody else likes.
Yeah.
I think that there is this. It's both in the culture of this town of Los Angeles, and by extension the Academy. But I also think it nationally now, the more exposure people get to Iñárritu, and we've been with DiCaprio's been with us for a long time. I think that the combination of these two guys can maybe start to seem insufferable if this keeps going for 6 more weeks.
Leo's very much like Brady, even to the point that they've shared the same woman.
Right. I mean, but
it's just he makes the right choices. He really only cares about acting and staying up till 5:30 in the morning looking for supermodels. He's shown no I guess he's had a couple of causes.
Right.
He's gotten attached to, but for the
he
most
gave
part,
us a new cause at the Golden Globes last week, which was
it's good. New one.
Native Americans.
Yeah.
And I think
he'll go from cause to cause.
That's a legitimate thing to bring up. I think it pivots the movie from being a movie about the difficult, arduous circumstances under which it was made to a movie that's about and speaking to like so-called First Nations people, American Indians.
And it also deflects people away from the fact that they basically just remade Jeremiah Johnson.
For anybody who remembers Jeremiah Johnson.
My dad's favorite movie ever.
A lot of people's favorite movie.
My dad's favorite movie of all time.
I think, and
some say he's up there still.
Oh my God. Well, we should have your dad on to talk about Jeremiah Johnson.
He loved Jeremiah Johnson. And guess what? He loved The Revenant.
Did he? I mean, and I think that there is a sort of lure in this. This brings us back in a weird way to the Oscars and the whiteness issue, right? The thing that I found somewhat revolutionary about The Revenant for its first 45 minutes was that it seemed to be not simply aware of the narrative imbalance with regard to white people and American Indians. It was trying to address that imbalance narratively. Yeah. And there's a moment when the Indian chief, and I'm not going to spoil anything in the movie for anyone, so don't worry. But there's a moment early on where the Pawnee Indian chief is there's a shot of him wandering through a burning camp after there's been a slaughter. Yeah. And he mentions that he's looking for his daughter. He goes from one side of the frame, more or less diagonally to the other side of the frame, from the top across to the bottom, I think. This is my memory of that shot. And it blew my mind. It blew my mind because I don't recall a movie giving that kind of emotional credence to a person who, under ordinary circumstances, would only be a villain.
Yeah.
His villainy, they're all villains under these circumstances. It's the wild effing West, so to speak. It's a free-for-all, and there are no pure bad people. Everybody sucks. And I thought that Iñárritu and his three screenwriters were trying to rebalance what I felt was obviously long-standing Hollywood imbalance in Westerns. As it turns out, Tarantino did a much more daring job of trying to rebalance the racial situation in
Not nominated.
Not nominated pretty much for anything.
No.
And The Revenant, sort of after its first hour, ultimately turns into a survival chase picture with Leonardo DiCaprio.
All right, so here's the best way that I think we should think about the Oscars.
Okay.
Is 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, just what's going to stand out? What are we going to remember?
Yes.
Don't react to just what, but just think like, all right, long term, we're stuck with these picks now. We're stuck with the nominations and we're stuck with the winners forever. And do we want to end up in a situation like with Crash, which is now actually probably a little bit of an underrated movie because people are so mad. It's not as bad.
No way.
People react now like it's Karate Kid 3. Like it's not. It's not that bad.
It's Karate Kid 4.
It's got some decent acting performances. It's not a catastrophe.
Listen, there's nobody who's a bigger fan of going back and being honest about the truth than I am. When it comes to art, that movie is bad every year.
Okay. It's not as bad as people.
When's the last time you saw it?
I should see it again.
You should see it again.
I remember liking Sandra Bullock entering her MILF stage. I enjoyed that. There's a couple, Matt Dillon, best performance he's ever had. Oh, God, a little Terrence Howard action. I'd forgotten that I liked Terrence Howard.
It's just a movie that is written by a person who didn't know any of the people in the movie.
So here's 2009, a year that we both liked.
That's a great Oscar year. It wasn't a great movie year, but the Oscars make it look like a really great movie year.
Hurt Locker wins. Avatar, Blindside, District 9, An Education, Inglourious Bastards, Precious, Serious Man, Up in the Air are all of our nominees. Jeff Bridges won for Crazy Heart.
Yes. Some of these I can support.
Sandra Bullock won for Blindside. Colored her hair. Little bubble butt action.
Who were the 5 nominees? It was Meryl Streep and Julia, Gabby Sidibe,
Carey Mulligan, Helen Mirren. Yeah.
I mean, Gabby Sidibe should win.
So Monique wins.
Monique wins.
And Christopher Waltz wins for Inglourious Bastards. All right,
Yes.
so now it's been 5-6 years.
Yes.
What do you remember from that year? The Hurt Locker. Enjoyed it. Hasn't maybe had the legs. I think there's been some movies, some Middle East war movies since where, you know, it's good, but now it's part of a collection of movies from about that area.
It's not. I mean, whatever is iconic about it is not.
It's not iconic.
No,
I wouldn't
it's
say.
not.
Blindside, Bullock.
On all the time.
Watched it with my daughter a month ago. She loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a watchable movie.
It's actually got some legs, and it propelled Bullock into this Nolan Ryan phase of her career.
Right. Isn't Kathy Bates also in that movie?
Kathy Bates is in that movie.
It's just got all the right cable elements. It'll just play forever.
Up in the Air.
As much as I hate it.
The last good Clooney performance. Last memorable Clooney performance.
Last memorable one, yeah, probably.
This is weird. It was a fun year, but it wasn't a very good year. But now you go back to 99.
But the reason to bring up 2009 with respect to the Oscars, though, is that was the most diverse Best Picture slate in the history of the Academy.
It was great.
I mean, you had movies directed by women. You had movies directed by black people. You had movies directed by women about men. You had a movie you had a cartoon about an old person. You had a mega hit 3D action extravaganza. And what at that point was the biggest movie of all time.
But we could have had all these things this year.
We could have had
a lot
some
of those
version
things.
of those things. But I think that was the first year that the Academy had opened up the voting pool they'd re-expanded it to 10 movies, up to 10 movies. And I think that people were just like voting their hearts. They weren't like paying attention to campaigns in the way that they do now. I think there's a kind of, I feel like that was just an honest group of Best Picture nominees. I've said that before, and people have just been able to explain why that happened.
It's a fun collage of nominees.
It's a great collage of nominees that to me tells a really interesting story about the people in the Academy that year.
And that was our problem with this year. The collage wasn't the right collage. Well, it didn't. I'm going to come out of this year thinking Creed, like they figured out a way to actually reinvigorate this franchise that had 7 movies in it and basically make a black movie out of a white franchise with a black lead and a black director. They reinvigorated Stallone. The boxing scenes were some of the best boxing scenes I'd ever seen. Oh. At least honor something about it other than Sly.
I think I take Mark Rylance's Oscar win back. I think Stallone is probably going to win. I also think that the difference, though, I just feel like I don't know how Precious became a Best Picture nominee. Excuse me. And I don't know how Lee Daniels was nominated for Best Director.
That's a weird one, right?
And back. I just feel like there are so many things that don't make sense about that year that it just feels pure to me. And I feel like there's also a kind of honesty in not nominating something like Creed. I also think that, and I know I hate to keep repeating this, but there was no campaign for that movie. I think that the idea that the Academy would go for like another iteration of a Rocky movie, I don't think they knew what to do to
put in Sly and they're done.
I think they didn't know what to do to make all Academy voters want to see it.
So 99, American Beauty wins. You had Sixth Sense, which at the time, really cool movie, and a movie that now in the internet culture, I think it gets spoiled within 5 seconds.
Right, it wouldn't last. But I mean,
Pacino in The Insider.
Yes.
Spike Jonze does Malkovich. Spacey wins. That's his career performance. Denzel, Hurricane.
In The Hurricane, though.
Hilary Swank.
Yeah, Boys Don't
Goes
Cry.
from acting with Ian Ziering to winning an Oscar in 4 years, which was still one of the most amazing things that's happened. That category had Hilary Swank, Annette Bening, Julianne Moore, and Meryl Streep in it.
And then you're missing somebody. Who's
Janet McTeer.
Janet McTeer, yeah. Tumbleweeds.
And then Jolie won Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah,
but you think of 99 and stuff jumps out.
Also,
and I wonder, so what's going to jump out this year? Is why I bring all this up. I think Revenant jumps out.
The Revenant, there's two things about the Revenant.
I don't know if Spotlight has the legs like that.
No, the Revenant is also making a ton of money.
Yeah,
it's making a ton of money. It's gonna be come Oscar night a huge hit. Come the closing of the polls to vote for the Academy.
I think we'll remember The Big Short.
Will we?
Well, just in terms of...
Did you like that?
I'm conflicted on it.
I don't understand. I mean, I've had a lot of smart people make a case for it for me. I haven't really been convinced by any of those cases. I find that movie to be confused and confusing. I think Adam McKay's idea of what a clarifying anecdote for the crash of the housing market is not clarifying to me. I just don't think it hangs together as a movie, and I feel like people's moral alignment with this movie trumps what the movie is actually doing.
So you're blaming liberal Twitter.
I do blame a degree of liberal fealty to this movie's sense of outrage.
So the ones that'll stick out for you, Mad Max.
Mad Max is great.
Loved.
Mad Max is great. Mad Max is an instant classic too. I think it's watchable at any stage of its being on. Now, it's not on cable yet, obviously.
It's on HBO now.
It actually does work on TV, despite the people who've seen it on TV and have been like, I'm turning this off. It's loud.
My biggest issue with Spotlight, which I really liked, was the scene when it's so understated the whole time. And then
the Ruffalo scene?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. No, that's an embarrassment.
You knew where I was going.
That's an embarrassment. That is
we need one Oscar scene
right,
there.
Yep.
What about the It's like, come on. You just did the beauty of that movie was that you didn't play any of the scenes that way.
Ding. Yep. I mean, I absolutely agree with you. That
bothered me.
That's that scene is more embarrassing to me than anything in The Big Short.
And he got nominated.
Yeah. No, I mean, because he's good everywhere else in the movie. But that scene, I mean, it doesn't sink the movie.
Who would you have now? You won supporting actor nomination for that movie. Who gets it?
Among those guys?
Yeah.
Okay, Liev Schreiber.
Thank you.
But I really respect and admire what Mark Ruffalo and Brian Darcy James did. Because I know those guys.
I liked Ruffalo's like how he made his body weird. It was kind of like
that is Mike Resendiz. That is Mike Resendiz. That is Mike Resendiz. Yeah. And he's got this like Resendiz. I don't know how Resendiz actually feels about that performance because Resendiz is like he's really proud of his fitness. And, that comes through in the movie too.
Yeah.
But there these moments, I didn't sit in an office with Mike, so I don't really know what his desk posture was like. But I don't know. I really respect and like what all of those actors did in terms of getting the people they were playing right. Because they didn't have to do that. Like, America doesn't know who Sasha Pfeiffer is.
No, it was great.
And the idea that Rachel McAdams...
I love the Liev Schreiber. The fact that he just inhabited Marty Baron.
It's incredible.
Became him.
But I also think... I just want to say really quickly about the acting in that movie. I think the performances in that movie are actual proof of what actors who don't get to do a lot of great acting can do.
Yeah.
When they have something to go for and when they have material that like respects their intelligence.
Very good Keaton movie.
I mean, it's a great Keaton performance. I mean, it's a good Keaton performance. Rachel McAdams is great.
She's always good though.
But I have never seen her get lost inside a part this way. She's never had, I mean, I guess True Detective was an attempt at that. And she really fought hard to make sense in a part that had nothing to do with her. But I felt like her performance in Spotlight, I thought was great because she had something. She had a thing that was very achievable for her, and she got it.
So we'll remember. I think this movie's going to win the Oscar. Spotlight. I would either pick that or Revenant.
You can't dispute the fact that Revenant's making so much money.
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, but you might be able to take care of that with Best Director.
He won last year.
That's great. 2 in a row. Now you're talking about him.
I mean, I don't know who else wins besides. I mean, Adam McKay could win. I don't know. I mean, I find it hard because everybody votes for director. Like, I mean, everybody votes for all the Oscars at this point.
Adam McKay won't win because he'll be considered an outsider.
Probably. I think
he directed Step Brothers. He's out.
Right. I mean, that he's a nominee, I guess, is supposed to be like a consolation.
Can anyone other than Brie Larson win? No. Feels like that's done.
No, that seems pretty
It's
solid.
just too bad Joy wasn't entertaining at all.
I think that's another movie that had moments, but it didn't. It does not hang together as a movie.
We need to break that whole crew up.
I think America feels that way too.
Yeah, just stop.
I heard a lot of people who did not want to see that movie because they felt they'd seen it before. And I think this is the Woody Allen movie. I think Russell is now, and this might be what he wants in a weird way, but the reason those Woody Allen movies don't really break out the way, I mean, every once in a while there'll be one that'll make like a lot of money and show up at the Oscars. Yeah. And it's because, I mean, I just think people go through these peaks and valleys and they think, you know, they're not missing anything with Woody Allen. I mean, he's prolific in the way that Roth, a lot of writers are prolific. And, you know,
he's prolific in a way of movies over and over again about somebody dating somebody who's like 65 years younger than them.
Something along
He's made
those
like
lines.
20 of those now.
Right. Along those
Dating
lines.
back to the 70s.
Listen, I think
it's fucking creepy.
it is creepy. I'm not here
really
to defend
is.
Woody Allen.
How
I'm with
creepy
you.
is Manhattan now?
I'm with you.
Is there a creepier movie than Manhattan? It's like if Bill Cosby had made a movie about casting for actors or something.
I mean, you know, it's funny because I'm now watching all these Cosby Show episodes.
Oh no!
And I've yet to find one that like, oh, here's a clue. It's amazing. Like, this is a completely separate issue from that show. And I hope that I'm only in season 3. I'm hoping nothing comes up. But
so we think Leo, you know, one other thing I'll remember about this year, I think it'll be Ridley Scott's last great movie because it's really hard to keep making movies when you're in your 80s.
it's
not
hard.
ruling it out, but it's
I
good.
mean, Eastwood,
Good chance
Ridley
it's
Scott,
his last great one. But
you know,
an iconic Damon
some great French
performance.
directors.
You know I love Damon.
Yes.
One
I
of
do
his
too.
best. We're in like basically the third decade of Damon.
I mean, here's the thing about Best Actor, at least with regard to these two guys, right?
Yeah.
Matt Damon is, we've said this before, I think Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio, I think DiCaprio is finally properly rated.
Okay.
I don't think Matt Damon will ever get his due as being as good as he is.
Here's my question with Best Oscar.
Yes.
For that.
The best actor.
Best actor.
Yeah.
If you swap those two actors for those movies.
Holy cow.
Damon.
I don't think DiCaprio does The Martian. It's too easy.
No, that's not a question.
Okay.
DiCaprio's in The Martian.
Yeah.
Is it better, worse, or the same? I think it's worse.
He would like have to
It's not as funny.
like bury himself in the dirt.
It's darker. It's a darker movie.
He wouldn't want to come back. I don't know. He'd be like, you know what? I'm just going to stay out here and colonize Mars myself.
It's not funny.
No.
With DiCaprio.
No.
Okay.
No.
Damon's in The Revenant.
It's just as good.
It's the same.
It's just
the same caliber of movie.
It's the same movie. This is a great point.
Yeah.
I think the same movie.
I think Damon wins Best Actor.
In
I think
general,
he was better.
in life,
I just think
he's life's best actor.
No, I think he's better in The Martian. I just think it's a better performance.
I don't think. Okay, so let's back
It's the
up for a second.
Castaway Hanks argument of doing more with less. Like he's in the movie by himself and like just staring into a camera. Like that shouldn't have worked. Like it did.
Well, here's the thing about Matt Damon he's got two modes. Matt Damon is a movie star and he can act.
Yes.
And in The Martian, the best aspects of The Martian, and I think some of the stuff at the space station at NASA were really good too.
Yeah, I do. I agree.
I mean, I think The Martian is
Why
a
was
really...
Kristen Wiig in this movie?
Where were any of those? It was basically they're all signing a "We Love Matt Damon" petition.
Oh, yeah.
Every single person in that movie, from Kristen Wiig to Donald Glover, was like, "We love this guy," but and probably Ridley Scott too. But I also think that the stuff in Florida is really good, or NASA is really good, and I think that every human piece of that puzzle just makes sense. The Martian is a really entertaining movie that I think that's about all it is, but that's a lot given how bad that movie could have been.
It reminds me of Gravity. It just delivers. It's just really good. It's well done. It's well acted.
The difference between this and Gravity, it's a similar thing, but Cuarón is, I mean, with all due respect to Ridley Scott, Cuarón is a genius.
Right.
He's a genius. Ridley Scott's not a genius. He's not even close to a genius as a filmmaker. I mean, there are probably actors like to work with him because he's a weird technician who's also good with actors.
The actors
at the same
love
time.
Ridley Scott.
Yeah, but I think Cuarón is just operating at a level beyond these guys. Okay, what else do we have to get?
Supporting actor,
Stallone.
Okay, supporting actress.
Your winner there is probably gonna be, I don't know. That's a toss up. Anybody can win that. Jennifer Jason Leigh, I think, is probably. I don't know. I mean, Kate Winslet. Does Kate Winslet need another Oscar?
How many Academy members actually?
She only has one. But
how many Academy members actually watch The Hateful Eight? Would be my fear with Jennifer Jason Leigh.
That's probably. I mean, I think that's
30%.
probably why it didn't do as well as like Django and Inglourious Bastards too. I think that it was too much for even the people in the Academy who love Tarantino.
And speaking of racism, we forgot in the Oscars, we forgot to mention Wiz Khalifa not getting nominated for the Fast 7 song, which was only one of the 5 biggest songs of 2015.
Yeah, I mean, but The Weeknd
the most crucial part of that movie was the Wiz Khalifa song.
I saw that movie
with Rafe Bartholomew, Marco Santi, and Dave Schilling.
Oh, it's a murderer's row of Fast and Furious fans.
It really was. We saw it at LA Live back when I was still at Grantland. And that scene, none of us knew it was coming. And we kind of none of us made eye contact. I was like, guys, you ready to go? Like, just,
I love when straight guys wind up having to have an emotional moment. It's like it's worse than being in like a string of urinals with a bunch of dudes when they're all maybe gonna cry and they just don't want to look at each other.
Commercial. It's like, all right, guys, want to get back to the office?
What a straitjacket.
But how does that not even get nominated? What a movie!
I don't get that. I really don't get that. Yeah. I mean, The Weeknd's getting nominated for Earned It. I'm happy that happened. It does get a black person at the Oscars, by the way, like last year when Common and John Legend went for Selma.
I think they rigged the song category. I don't think people actually.
I don't get the song category because last year there was a really good original song there, and they got maybe 2 of them right.
Wesley Morris, we can find you in the New York Times.
You can find me at the New York Times. It's true.
You wrote a really good piece about David Bowie.
Oh, thank you.
I really liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was good.
Sadness.
It was good. The MTV, really weird interview. Good YouTube clip. Check it out. You're working on a couple other things. You can just check out Wesley on your Twitter feed, the New York Times archive page.
Yeah.
Wherever. You'll be back next time you're in LA. Every time you're in LA, come on.
I certainly will.
All right. Thanks to HBO Now, you don't need cable or satellite to watch HBO anymore. Download the HBO Now app and start your free 1-month trial today. Did you know The Godfather Epic is on HBO Now?
Is it?
7 hours.
The whole thing?
There's like a half hour of deleted scenes in it. It's amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Thanks to SeatGeek, the presenting sponsor of the BS Podcast and Channel 33. Subscribe to both of those podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. Thanks, Wesley.
Thank you, Bill. I'll come back. We can talk about the actual nominations.
Yeah.
I mean, the actual show.
We about this bitch. Anytime y'all want to see me again, rewind this track right here, close your eyes, and picture me rolling.